So welcome back to another episode of Am I the Antagonist? And am I the antagonist for not giving my niece her university fund now that she's pregnant? So make sure you subscribe down below with the notifications on so twice a day DecoyNoise can start fast forwarding your boring things with live Reddit commentary just like this one. So let's go ahead and hear OP out right now. So OP writes, I, a 45-year-old male, never got married or had kids. My little brother, a 41-year-old male, and his wife, the 39-year-old female, have two daughters, the eldest of which is 18 and expecting her first child. As a backstory, in 2008, I was let go of my job at a regional accounting firm. Nobody was taking staff back then, so I took some time out and studied to become a licensed insolvency practitioner, after which I started my own firm and started making good money dealing with companies going into administration after the credit crunch. This career shift enabled me to buy my first house at 37 and start to save for the future. My brother, like most people, was not as lucky as I was. In 2008, he had a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old and got made redundant. He and his wife lost the house, which was unfortunate. If they'd been able to hang on for another 18 months, I'd been able to support them with their mortgage payments. But at that time, I was also out of work and living off of savings. After I bought my house 8 years ago, I started saving for my niece's university fees. The government at that time had just announced that they were raising fees to £9,000 per year, so I wanted the girls to be able to go without getting into huge amounts of debts. I felt bad for my little brother and the girls because I was doing well and they were struggling at the time. They would never have accepted any money from me, so saving up for their university fees felt like the next best thing. I gave up on a few things, like I could have afforded a nice car but chose something more discreet and saved the difference. My eldest niece, who we'll call Rachel, was meant to be off in university in October. However, she's now taking up her place because she's pregnant and has decided to defer her studies to take care of the baby. She called me over the bank holiday weekend to ask about the university fund and whether she could have some of the money to get set up in her own flat and buy baby things. I said the answer was no. The money is for her education, and she could either have it when she goes to university at some point in the future, or I would pay for a local college course so she could finish her A-levels and learn a skill, like bookkeeping, so she can get a higher paying job. Ultimately, this caused a big family row where I was labeled the villain because I didn't give Rachel the money when she needed it most. I don't really see it as her money to spend her as she chooses. It's only hers on the condition she uses it for her education. If I give her £25,000 now, there you go. That'll last a year to 18 months. Then what happens? If she gets her degree / completes vocational training and establishes a career, then she'll be on her own 2 feet and can financially survive. I'd appreciate a fresh pair of eyes on this, so can anyone tell me if I'm being the antagonist for not giving Rachel her money for anything other than university / local college / training? An update, a lot of people say it's pointless to pay fees outright in the UK. Here's my reasoning, so they sent the link about why the political portion of this story is, but I mean, as always, you take this to Decoy Court where I give you my knee-jerk reaction as to what I think about the story and who's the antagonist. I read some of those top comments right after, then we read the controversial comments. I'll read your comments down below, then we'll do that Decoy Deliberation where we figure out who the true antagonist is and then make up some fun punishment theoretically for whoever the true antagonist is. But we'll kind of just jump into this one right now where it's like they need to kind of figure out that there's a clear distinction between, you know, giving somebody a trust, a gift, or a college fund. Like, this wasn't niece's money to do whatever they want. Like, they're claiming it's her money. It was money to do a specific task. Like, I feel like this is the equivalency of, you know, I believe in my niece's painting ability, so I'm setting aside $10,000 for her to paint this mural. And then niece comes back and says, nah, bro, like, I'm a SoundCloud rapper. I'm gonna need that money for studio time. And it's like, yes, the niece is entitled to pursue whatever she wants because it's her life, but that money was to promote like positive reinforcement for a very particular accomplishment. It's just for school. It's not just for whatever she wants to do. And I hate the idea that they just kind of feel like they're entitled to somebody's goodwill. Like, I'm sorry, I don't know what like Disney Pixar movie they grew up on, but all love is conditional love at some point in time. Like, from giving money to your niece that's contingent on them getting higher education, or, you know, loving your child contingent that they're not like a spouse beater or like, you know, the next Zodiac killer. Like, it's just, there's conditions they want to support the niece, and that's okay. And the idea that it's like, you know, I nominate anyone that has a problem with the way the OP is spending their money by giving the niece the $25,000 that they're missing out on. Like, you know, whenever I hear somebody saying, oh, you're doing it wrong, I always want to say, okay, then you go do it right. And the idea is, if they reply to me with anything other than, okay, I will do it right, then it's just like, no, shut up, like, you don't know what you're talking about. But that's just me being the antagonist. I understand that I am the antagonist in a lot of ways, so, but we're here to judge OP to whether they're the antagonist. I'm gonna go ahead and say they're not the antagonist. Like, they set up this college fund, did a really good thing for the niece, and, you know, whether she uses it now, uses it much later after the baby's kind of on their own 2 feet and, you know, moving on, that's their money to take. They always have that option, take it or leave it. Not a lot of people have the option to get that free money. Now, I hate the idea that it's like, no good deed goes unpunished. So it's just like, maybe OP should just sit down and say, pretend this is like Scott's Tots from The Office and say, you know, I always intended to pay for college, but I actually don't have that money. It was always just meant for you to strive for the better, like just to motivate you to finish school and everything. I never had the money, but I mean, that's just more antagonism on my end. So take a brief break, pause the video, let me know what you think, prove I'm wrong, prove I'm right, whatever it may be. Earn yourself that Decoy coin on the DecoyNoise.com website, and maybe that'll be worth something good later on. I don't know. It's not going to pay your way through college, but it'll be something good. But let's go ahead and read that top comment, which is not the antagonist in my eyes. That money was set aside for a goal, her education. If that goal was not met, then no point in offering that money. I'm just surprised that family members are acting like total jerks to you. It's not their money to be commanding like that. And that's the thing, is like the whole you're doing it wrong-isms, where it's like, I know you set aside to do a good deed, but you know what? I wouldn't do the good deed in that particular way, so here, you should do it the way I would do it, not knowing what the intent was behind that money. He doesn't want her to spend that money and learn the wrong lesson of being like, oh yeah, you know, drop out of school, don't go to you know, just raise your kid and then everything's gonna be okay, because it's actually just gonna be more of a burden. Like their standard of living will increase when they're not there yet. It's kind of callous, but maybe that's part of the lesson that they're trying to teach their niece. Let's go ahead and read the next reply. Not only that, OP has very clear logic that funding university will last her niece's lifetime, whereas giving the money now won't subsidize her short-term living cost. And seriously, people understandably go all out on their first baby and will burn through the cash quickly on a best new buggy, clothes, etc. Niece won't even remember this a few years' time if she gets the cash now. Which is very true. Like, you know, you're going to buy all this stuff for the kid and they're never going to use it again unless you have another kid shortly after and you have all those supplies set aside. The college fund will actually last her a lifetime as long as she majors in something that will translate into a job for her. But let's go ahead and read that next top reply. Not the antagonist. It's not her money, it's your money, and you're still open to give it to her for the purpose it was intended. Having a child is not an excuse to go up on education. Quite the opposite. It's a good reason to start having one more than ever. And that's the idea, is like, I understand where they're coming from, the whole like deferring college. Like, when you have a kid, it's gonna be super duper, like, it's hard enough to pass college classes as it is. Trying to raise a newborn at the same time would be nearly impossible. So I get that they should probably not do school the first year that this baby's born, which is okay, but just the idea that it doesn't just entitle them, like, you know, poor planning on your behalf doesn't constitute an emergency on my behalf. So no, there's no reason for him to have to give the niece the money. But let's go ahead and read the reply to that. Yeah, the entitlement is crazy, but I have a feeling that the niece has just been planning on using that money for the baby since she found out that she was pregnant. And now that the family has found out they won't have the extra $25K, they're freaking out. In a few years' time, though, if the niece chooses to go to university or study a course, she'll definitely be grateful that she didn't have to pay for it herself and support a child. Which also, the idea that would suck, as well, like a lot of people that I knew when I was going to community college, was they're just doing the school to get to the jump through the hoops to get the money that the government gives them. Like, I can imagine if they really wanted, she'd say, okay, cool, I'm gonna go ahead and enroll in like one college course at like local city college, give me that $25K, which is, it's set a weird loophole, which, you know, it would almost be cause for concern for OP to be like, you know what, this money was supposed to do something good. Now that it's not doing anything good, I'm gonna buy myself a Maserati for the year. I don't know. But just the idea that it's like, I hate when you're doing somebody a favor and it's turned out that, you know, everybody wants to either abuse it or call you the bad guy. But let's go ahead and read that next top reply, which is, not the antagonist. You saved that money for her education, not to support her when she's having a kid. True. And the reply to that was, exactly. It's not even her money, it's his. And he was saving it to be able to pay for education. Bingo. Okay, so yeah, the idea is just the whole, it's true, like that money isn't just hers to have. Someone's saying, no, the antagonist, you specifically save for education, not her nest egg. Okay, so everybody's kind of piling on that. That's why I think it's important to go over not only the top comments, but the controversial comments, because I feel like a lot of these stories we've been covering more recently, I'm trying to find the more controversial, the more, like, you know, moral gray area stories to cover. The controversial comments have actually been able to not necessarily change my mind on like what the Decoy Court verdict is, but just to change my mind as to, you know, the extent of what you should do in afterwards. Like, oh, should you really try to punish them, or should you just, like, you know, let this happen, that sort of thing. So to all the people that think that I do too many different facets of a story and I'll just jump to the next story, I like controversial comments quite a bit. But let's go ahead and read that top controversial comment right now, which is, as a younger person, 22-year-old female, having a child was so difficult. Luckily, I had the support of my boyfriend and all his family and my own family. At first, my boyfriend and I kept everything to ourselves. We didn't start to tell family till I was half through my second trimester. Mostly because I felt as though this was a failure on my part. I had and still have 60 credits in college, which is halfway through a 4-year degree here in the States. I have a couple setbacks finishing my degree, including not limited to a mental health issue, but slowly evolved into a very disoriented and difficult time in life to deciding what I really want to go to school for. It is hard to know where to go next when you are in this situation. Even with all the tons of support I had, if I was your niece, I definitely would have asked as well. I understand your decision, but I don't necessarily agree with it. Looking back now and looking to my future, if I had an uncle like you, I would hope he would come up with a compromise, something along the lines of a small monthly stipend, alongside the promise and a clear visible progress of your niece's intent to use the money to gain a skill or a degree to help her earn more money and be more self-sufficient. I work at a country club as a waitress, and in the summer as a pool manager. When I was pregnant, I worked 50 hours a week to help save for my child. After she was born, I took 6 weeks off then again and worked 50 hours a week. You do not want your niece, especially if she doesn't have a partner to share child rearing responsibilities with. I wish I had the money and the credit to go back to school right now. With my daughter coming up in a year, it finally feels like I could make it work. But all in all, I want to say no antagonist here, just trying to give you the opinion of someone similar to your niece. And just the idea is someone is similar to the niece, well, of course they're going to want the money, but it's not the best thing. She doesn't need the money right now. She's somehow making it work, going through hardships. It's not killing her. So the idea is this is probably the best thing, because if the uncle OP relents and gives her the money right now, she's going to burn through it super fast, not work, and just, you know, I'm not saying put her feet up because it's easier, but she's not going to work as hard as she is right now. So the idea is OP is being the only adult in the room saying, no, give you the money, it's going to be a waste. Nothing good of this is going to come from it. I'm going to set it aside when you're ready and capable to use it for its intended purpose. And it's also the idea we're saying, like, oh yeah, so maybe, you know, you give them a local small stipend, so they're making steps towards education. He already said that he was going to do that. He said that he was going to give her the money to go to like local city college or get, like, you know, some vocational school, what do you call it, permit or something, just being able to learn a skill where they can increase their income ability. And then she declined it. She says no, $25K outright. I think they were, like the other people were saying, they were just relying on that money, thinking it was sitting around and it was theirs and they were entitled to it, not realizing that this wasn't just a gift, this is a college fund. But let's go ahead and read another reply to this controversial comment, which is agreeing the same. I suggested something similar. The cycle of poverty is real and could put OP's niece in a feedback loop of money trouble similar to niece's parents. It's far more destructive than the absence of a college education. Cries over $9K a year in American. So here's the idea is, yeah, they're saying, oh yeah, the feedback loop of money trouble similar to niece's parents. The idea that he's doing exactly that by contributing to a college fund, saying, I'm not going to give you into the feedback loop of financial troubles. That's exactly what this is going to do. This is like going to be like she hit a scratcher and hit $25K on a scratcher, not knowing how to hold on to the money, how to manage the money, how to make that money into more money. She's just going to use that money on necessities, not work as hard, and be set in the feedback loop that you're trying to get her to avoid. So they kind of got some votes, but I feel like they kind of missed the point that this money was to do exactly what both people are trying to get them not to do. They're just not in the you know, they're not the adult in the room. They're just saying like, oh, we need an easier time. Why would you make my life harder when you could make it easier right now? Which is, that's parenting 101. Like, you make them do chores, you make them clean up after themselves. It take you, like, you know, a third of the time for you to mow your own lawn, but you're trying to, you know, show them something about hard work or like consequences for their actions, but also giving them an opportunity to better themselves, giving them allowance, and also giving them money to go to college. I know I'm kind of going on a tangent right now, so let's go ahead and go to the next controversial reply, which is saying, a lot of people are saying not the antagonist, but I'm saying no antagonist here, only because your niece is still a teenager. She's still too young to understand she's being the antagonist. You're going to help her out when she gets back to class, so she's still benefiting from the savings even now. She doesn't have to worry about saving up for college, so she can focus on taking care of her baby, and when she's ready to go back for her education, the college fund will be there for her to use. And that's an idea. I guess that's good. Like, the whole, I know that probably is my decision too. The whole, like, I say not the antagonist, but probably meant no antagonist here. The idea that, you know, the niece is just not in the mental state to make a sound decision as to what's right and what's wrong. They're just kind of hard situation. They just wanted the easiest way out. So yeah, that's true. It's just like, you know, you're helping her. She's just too young to understand, though. Like, you know, you don't want to compare anybody to a dog, but it's like when your dog is walking up to some poison ivy or walking up to a scorpion or something, you're going to pull back on their leash and say, no, dog doesn't know any better. They're just like, oh, look at that funny thing right there. Why are you hurting me? But it's like, this is for the better. I know that's a terrible analogy, and probably 5 people unsubscribe. Like, how dare you say that, you know, this young mother is a dog on a leash or whatever, but that'll be taken out of context. But let's go ahead and read the next reply right now, which is, the niece is thinking that she can use the money on the baby now and then get student loans if she goes to university later. I can understand why she thinks that, but the money had clear rules on how it could be used. And that's the idea. Is I don't really know if OP had like crazy stipulations as to what the money could have been used for. Like if they get student, like, you know, loans and grants from the government, maybe they say, okay, now that 25K is just so you don't have to work a part-time job while you're studying. I'll give you that money, but it's contingent on you going to school. But let's go ahead and read one more top reply, a controversial reply, which is, I'm confused. You said that you wanted to help them out, but they never would have accepted money from you, so you chose to save up for the girl's education, fair enough. But now that she does need help, you say the fund is there for a very specific reason. It sounds a little bit contradictory to me. Which isn't to say you're being malicious at all. I think it's great you're helping them out and they're extremely lucky. I'll go with not the antagonist. It's your right. You're right. It's not her money and you really want it to be put to good use. You're thinking about her future and her career and how she's going to support herself and the baby in the long run. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think that she's an antagonist for thinking that she could use it for a flat and for a baby either. It just means she has different priorities and can't fault her for that. This is, after all, a baby we're talking about. I suggest talking to your niece one-on-one, discuss options for her to continue studies while looking at the baby / getting help with the baby. I truly believe you're trying to do a good thing, but maybe you could both find a middle ground. And this is all coming from, I feel like, not that, you know, you're immature for thinking this, but very short-sighted, saying like, you know, you're being contradictory by saying, I'm giving this money, but I'm not giving you this money. This is more nuanced to that, and you know damn well. That's probably why you got downvoted, and it's like you had to read, you know, way into a 5-paragraph story to figure out that you weren't being like an idiot in that situation. But just the idea that, no, there's no middle ground. There's no like helping out. It's just like, that's what the money's for. I'm doing this for your own good. Maybe they won't realize that this was for the better until several months later and the kid's already in college and they finish their degree themselves, but sometimes you have to be the only adult in the room, and that's just this time right here. And the more replies, it's not the antagonist, it's your money, but she's not the antagonist for asking. So it's like, you know, nobody's being malicious here. I think everybody's just caught in a difficult situation where uncle wants to do a good thing by helping them get through school so they'll never have to want in their life, and then niece is going through a difficult time where she's like, how am I going to put a roof over my head while I'm having this baby? Probably even stressed out about having the baby. Everybody that has, like, you know, six-figure jobs and nice six-figure jobs and a nice house and plenty of family to help take care of their kid, they're still freaked out about a baby. So this, alongside being young and not having, like, you know, a roof over your head, I could see why they'd be a little bit more stressed out than the average person. But like always, tell me I'm wrong. Do something to contradict what I'm saying. Like, you know, give me your feedback as of the story if you're very close to this particular one. Earn yourself that Decoy coin by putting something in the comments down below that makes me think. But if nothing else, I just want to say I appreciate you watching the entire video, hanging out while I'm taking this long break from work. Subscribe down below with the notifications on to make sure you're actually able to see every video that comes out by DecoyNoise. Head over to DecoyNoise.com and fill out some surveys, give me some feedback, or submit your own story about Am I the Antagonist? But if nothing else, put this on autoplay and watch the next DecoyNoise coming up next.